Not every family pattern deserves to be repeated. Some traditions build a home, others quietly damage it, generation after generation, until no one questions them anymore. You have been calling it just family, but Scripture never says family closeness excuses every pattern inside it. Honoring your family is not the same as tolerating everything that happens in it. Some patterns do not become biblical just because they have been normal for years. Today we will look at 6 patterns worth examining honestly. Not to make you bitter, not to make you disrespect the people who raised you, but so you can recognize what is actually shaping your home, your faith, and your future family. Stay to the end, because the 6th pattern is not about your parents, or your siblings, or your past. It is about what you might already be repeating without realizing it. Before we begin, something needs to be said clearly. This is not permission to expose, humiliate, or cut off family in anger. Scripture calls us to honor our father and mother. But honor was never meant to mean silence in the face of harmful patterns. Hold that gently as we go. Here is the first pattern. Control is called love, and boundaries are treated like betrayal. Picture an adult child trying to make a simple decision about their own life. A job, a move, a relationship, a schedule. A parent responds not with questions, but with pressure. Guilt enters the conversation quickly. If you really loved this family, you would not even consider it. The child backs down, not out of wisdom, but out of exhaustion. This is not the same as loving guidance. Guidance respects your ability to choose. Control punishes you for choosing differently. Colossians warns fathers directly, "Do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged." That is what control does to the people under it. It does not guide them. It slowly discourages them. Here is the test. When you set a small boundary, does the reaction stay calm, or does it escalate into guilt, silence, or anger? If the pattern repeats often, that is worth noticing prayerfully. Not to retaliate, but to stop assuming that control is simply what love looks like in your family. Here is the second pattern. Anger, harsh words, and emotional pressure are normalized as just how we are. Imagine a dinner table where voices rise quickly. Someone says something sharp. Everyone laughs it off a moment later, as if nothing happened. The children at the table learn something important that night. Harsh words do not need to be addressed. They only need to be survived. Ephesians is specific here. Get rid of bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and malice. Notice that Scripture does not soften this list for family settings. It applies everywhere relationships exist. Here is the test. Do you find yourself bracing before family gatherings, expecting sharp words at some point? If so, bring that honestly to God, not to justify resentment, but to stop calling harm just our personality. A calm boundary here might simply be leaving a conversation before it escalates, without matching the anger yourself. If you have recognized either of these patterns already, do not brush past that discomfort. This is not an attack on your family. It is an invitation to see clearly. The next patterns are usually the hardest to name out loud. Here is the third pattern. Guilt and shame are used to keep people silent. Picture someone finally speaking up about something painful from childhood. Instead of being heard, they are told they are exaggerating or that they should be more grateful. The conversation ends quickly. The subject never comes up again. Over time, that person learns silence is safer than honesty. Colossians tells us to bear with one another and forgive one another. But forgiveness was never meant to require pretending something did not happen. Forgiveness deals honestly with pain. Silence only buries it. Here is the test. Is there something you have never said out loud in your family because you already know how it will be received? Bring that specific memory to God first. If it is significant, consider bringing it to a wise counselor or pastor before bringing it to the family member directly. Truth does not require cruelty, but it also does not require permanent silence. Here is the fourth pattern. Peace is defined as pretending nothing happened. Imagine a family gathering after a painful year. No one mentions the conflict. Everyone smiles, passes the food, and avoids the subject entirely. Afterward, it is called keeping the peace. But peace built on avoidance is fragile. It breaks the moment the subject accidentally comes up again. True biblical peace is not the absence of conversation. It is the fruit of honesty, even when full reconciliation is not yet possible. Romans tells us, If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Notice the words, if it is possible. Reconciliation requires willingness from both sides. Peace does not require silence from one. Here is the test. In your family, is peace something that is actually restored or something that is simply avoided every time? If it is mostly avoided, pray for wisdom before the next gathering. Ask God for one honest, gentle sentence you could offer instead of another year of silence. Here is the fifth pattern. Faith language is used to excuse unhealthy behavior instead of confronting it with truth. Picture a family conversation where someone brings up a real concern. The response comes quickly. We just need to forgive and move on. God is in control, so stop bringing this up. These phrases sound spiritual. The problem is not using Scripture. The problem is using Scripture to shut down truth. But used this way, they are not correction. They are a way to avoid it. Ephesians tells us to speak the truth in love, not to use love as a reason to avoid the truth. Faith language should never be used to protect harmful patterns from honest examination. Here is the test. Has Scripture ever been used in your family to end a conversation rather than to bring genuine understanding? If so, that is not the fault of Scripture. It is a misuse worth recognizing clearly, so you do not repeat it yourself. Now we come to the sixth pattern, and this is the one that matters most. The pattern becomes dangerous when you start repeating it in your own home. Not because you intend to, simply because familiar patterns are easy to inherit without noticing. The sharp tone you once resented shows up in your own voice. The silence you once resented becomes your own way of avoiding hard conversations. The guilt you once carried becomes a tool you reach for with your own children. Romans tells us not to be conformed to the pattern of this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. That renewal is not automatic. It requires noticing the pattern honestly, instead of defending it because it is familiar. Someone or something from your own family may already be coming to mind right now. If so, do not rush into blame tonight. Bring it honestly before God instead. Ask Him to show you clearly what you inherited without choosing. Ask Him for the courage to break a pattern rather than simply pass it forward. This does not mean rejecting your family. It does not mean dishonoring your parents or refusing to love the people who raised you. Honor and honesty can exist together. Boundaries and love can exist together. Forgiveness and truth can exist together. Tonight, do not make a dramatic decision out of this video. Instead, bring one honest prayer to God. Lord, show me what I have normalized without noticing. Give me wisdom to honor my family without repeating what harmed me. Give me courage to build something healthier in my own home. Faith is not protected by pretending your family has no patterns worth examining. Faith is protected by bringing those patterns honestly before God and letting Him renew what gets passed forward. Which of these 6 patterns did you recognize in your own family? Write in the comments. Lord, help me break what needs to be broken. If this message helped you, subscribe to Guard Your Spirit for more biblical wisdom and spiritual discernment.